And good evening indeed. Here we are live, studio number 2 of GGPHelp TV. My name's Liam and I'm your host for today. Welcome to the, I don't know, it must be like the 31st annual results for Greyland Gold and reporting the Newcrest mining results. Wow, 2023, new studio. This looks absolutely fantastic. We've got a whole new streaming software that's working. It's going to make this a really interactive show and stuff. I'm sure already you've seen things. You're like, wow, what are these guys up to? These amateurs. I mean, that's what we are. Drinking tea, drinking wine, and all the rest of it. That's right. Stu is here too. He'll be with you just shortly. She's sorting out some bits and bobs there in the background. It's grand to have you all here. Who we got in the comments today? Let's just have a quick look. We got Mark, we got Dean, we got Dip, we got Andy, we got Malcolm, we've got Boy, we've got Gary, we've got Colin. I'm in there. How did that happen? Minty's back. Hopefully, there's no dropouts for you today. Choddy is in there, and Jamie. Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all there. If you've got any comments, please do leave us a comment by being part of the show. He says, I've broken it already. No, there you go. Be part of the show. That's what it says. Leave us a comment. Beautiful. Okay, so without any further ado, let's bring in tonight's guest, Stu. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good evening, all. Happy New Year. First one of 2023. I'm well, thanks. It's been a busy start to the year. Had my folks over for Christmas, which was fantastic to see them from South Africa. So, yeah, all enthused, energized, and ready to watch the carnage continue.
And just like that, my email pings, ASX announcement, Newcrest Mining have released an announcement. So there's every chance we are already with news. Wouldn't that be a setup for this evening? I'll let you do that. So Christmas, busy with 2 kids?
And then some, or 3 kids, in fact. I have my 24-year-old son over from South Africa at the moment as well. He's due to go home next Saturday after 6 months with me. So that'll be sad, to say the least.
Yes, that would be. Do you know what, Stu? That's gone really, really quickly.
Oh, absolutely flown by. Yeah. As they say, obviously time moves faster as you get older. Is that just a function of your memory getting worse? I'm not sure, but it certainly feels like it marches on.
Yeah, standard true to form. We've managed to crash the Newcrest website. It's got as far as the miner of choice, and it ain't doing any more. So I'm just going to dip across to the comments. Minty says, and Stu, I'm going to blow you away with this. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
EastEnder says, good so far. Check that out. How cool is that? Comments on the screen. That is just awesome. Minty, thank you very much. So yeah, if you do have any questions, please do drop them in there in the chat. I have got it on my screen. I am watching it. I'm watching.
How do I get them? Where's the chat?
There should be a chat somewhere in the corner.
Found them. There we are. Oh, so some of these we can't repeat. Evening. Mad shaggers. Thanks, Jamie.
We have a stand-in producer this evening, as our normal producer's gone away on holiday. How dare he? Skiing in the Alps. So he's fired me through the PDF, which is currently downloading onto my desktop as we speak, and I'll be sharing it with you momentarily. Q2 results. So this is the quarterly exploration report on my screen. I am going to go over to our share scene, which we should have. Screen share. Here we go. I'm going to share my screen. I am going to take.
I see. Dibs has shared some very valuable information in the chat for those of you only privy to the chats this evening.
And bosh, there we go. That's how we do that. I need to change you over because you are not there. Replace guest. I'm going to use Stu Kung Fu. Nice. Stu Kung Fu. There you go. You're there now. That's better. Right. Okay. Q2 results. Strength and growth potential. My microphone has gone weird and I don't like it.
It's not out on Newcrest website,
so. File. Zoom. Window. I want to go full screen. That's better. At Havieron, here we go. Drilling continues to reinforce the potential incremental resource growth with higher grade extensions to the mineralization in the northern breccia and eastern breccia. In the eastern breccia, results outside the current mineral resource had 134, 82 meters at 2.1 grams per ton at 25% copper from 1,508 meters, including 30 meters at 2.4 grams per ton and 0.19% copper from 1,540 meters. Had 163, 86 meters at 1.2 grams per ton, and a splash of copper from 1,415 meters, including 1.9 at 0.09% copper. And had 167 is a lovely jubbly 78 meters at 1.9 gram per ton from 1,516 meters.
It's nice and consistent, perfect block cave grades. They're right there.
At the northern breccia, drill results include had 98 wedge 7, which is a paltry 84 meters at 3.2 grams per ton. I do jest. From about 1,000 meters. Drilling is ongoing to define the extents of the higher grade zones of mineralization. At the new Spring Peak, that's in Nevada. No one cares about Spring Peak. So, I'm going to zoom out. I'm going to scroll down. Oh, that's Red Chris. Here we go. Oh, this is just working so smoothly. Let's just... what's happening? Jamie, we've got the results. Anyway, the Havieron project is operated... Have you got any comments, Stu, before I go on?
No, not yet.
Okay, cool.
As I said, the breccia is just perfect block cave grade. Nice long intersections, 82 meters, consistent. Your inclusive grade is only going from 2.1 to 2.4, so it's pretty much just an average of 2.2 across that whole piece. Perfect for block cave, just what we're after.
I forgot to say, someone dared me, Stu, to dress up for the occasion. I don't know if you can read what my T-shirt says. Let me just let's just go over to...
It's got Australia something.
It's for Australia Day, as it is Australia Day this week. I got myself a koala in Australia. G'day. I was supposed to start with g'day, but I was so excited to be in the new studio that, I dressed up for the event. So happy Australia Day, Stu, and thanks to Newcrest for bringing this a day forward due to the bank holiday. It's confused a lot of us. The Havieron project is operated by Newcrest under a joint venture agreement with Greatland Gold PLC. Newcrest is the manager and holds 70% interest in the Havieron project, and Greatland holds a 30% interest. The JVA includes tolling principles reflecting the intention of the parties that, subject to a successful exploration program, feasibility study, and a positive decision to mine, the result joint venture mineralized material will be processed at Telfer. The Havieron project is centered on a deep magnetic anomaly located 45 clicks east of Telfer in the Paterson province. The deposit is overlain by more than 420 meters of post-mineral Permian cover. The joint venture commenced drilling during 2019, that seems such a long time ago, and has completed 288,664 meters of drilling from 327 drills to date. That's excluding anything that's not quite worked. Drilling activities in the quarter have produced a further 19,079 meters from 22 holes, with up to 6 drill rigs operating during the quarter. Now, the question for you, Stu, is did we report some of these in December? I think we did. This includes 4 infill drill holes within the current Eastern Breccia inferred resource, which are not included in this report, and 6 abandoned holes which failed to reach target depth. Interesting. No assay results are reported from 12 holes. 8 were assays pending from the previous quarter. Of the reported holes, 7 holes returned significant assay intercepts in excess of 50 gram meters gold. I know you like that. Further infill drilling has commenced to support ongoing resource assessment of the Southeast Crescent Zone. Growth drilling targeting mineralization definition. I swear they write these to trip me up. Growth drilling targeting mineralization definition and continuity continues to show. Who puts continuity continues to show potential for resource additions outside of the existing indicated and inferred mineral resource limits, including extensions of the Eastern Breccia, incorporating definition of identified internal higher grade zones, assay results reported for 7 drill holes, slow down bottle, 2 holes awaiting assays. Extensions to the Northern Breccia at depth between the current Northern Breccia resource and Eastern Breccia resource, assay results reported for 2 drill holes, 4 holes awaiting assays. Mm-hmm. Drilling to assess geophysical targets outside the main Havieron system. 3 drill holes reported and 2 holes awaiting assays from step-out drilling to the northwest and southeast of the Havieron system. That's interesting because I mean we know that the ones that they've done up north haven't really come up with much that we got excited about. I mean, the geologists at Greatland and Newcrest might have got excited about them, but they weren't anything for the market to get excited about, were they? The Eastern Breccia is developed below 4100 RL with a footprint of over 500 meters in strike, up to 200 meters in width, and over 250 meters in vertical extent. Within this zone, multiple northwest trending internal high grade, greater than 1 grams per ton gold sulfide, dominated domains are observed. The Eastern Breccia remains open at depth and to the northwest and southeast. Sorry. Yeah, and not much drawing. When you look to the drawings, there was just nothing there. Had 134. I think we've kind of covered these, haven't we? Are there any? I think we've covered these in the headlines. Do they, anything there stand out for you, Stu?
In pretty much all directions, and it's got its. That's the first time I think that I can remember them actually putting those dimensions on it. Having a quick look over what was given last time. Last time highlights very similar to that.
Right.
Yeah.
I've just realised that neither you or the report were on the screen for anyone to hear or see. So there was me waffling away, and but anyway, it's on you. We can bring the producer in next time, and he can help. But anyway, it's all good.
Okay, so that same dimensions given in the last report.
Yes.
No repeat of the holes, but slightly higher grade in last reports. Most intervals about 2.4, and we had one 26-meter interval at 6.4. But again, that just putting the stories together, that's 12 holes with all, like they say, these higher grade veins ranging up to 6 and open in all directions. So is it a Bams's double ovoid theory?
Absolutely. Okay, so now this is on the screen. Oh, did I do that? Yes, I did.
All right, so moving on to Northern Breccia.
The Northern Breccia results include had
Rob,
98 wedge 7,
at
which is
3.2.
84 meters at 3.2 gold from 1,000 meters. Drilling to test geophysical targets outside of the known Havieron mineralized system, include evaluating the Havieron dolerite at multiple intervals north and south of the heavy. Wait. Let's just read this again. Drilling to test geophysical targets outside of the known Havieron mineralized system, including evaluating the Havieron dolerite at multiple intervals north and south of the Havieron mineralized envelope, revealed no significant intercepts from 3 holes, which I think we knew, had 165, MEC 001, and NOR 002. 2 holes are awaiting assays. The initial campaign of growth programs in March will progress assessment of growth targets and ongoing resource infill of the lower southeast crescent, with drill programs reducing to 3 drill rigs over the Western Australian wet season. So that's a big change, isn't it, for us? That's now down to 3 drill rigs for the next 3 months, I think.
Yeah.
That's about right, isn't it? And then it all picks up again in April. Well, it says there March. So that would actually make sense. March, April, May is when they start to bring it back up. Look at that. This here is a 3D plan view schematic showing the spatial association of the southeast crescent, northern Breccia, northwest pod, and eastern Breccia in relation to the current exploration growth target areas and the mineral resource extents. I mean, that's just crazy, huh?
Hell of a lot of green intercepts there, which are outside of our mineral resource, obviously. And then a lot in those exploration growth targets. And a lot of green hits in those. You're saying that's exploration growth, but we've got that, bottom right red circle. That's a hell of a lot of hits in something that's a growth target, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And Bamps is going to be getting excited because look how big this boundary is now getting. The calc silicate alteration and breccia extent. That's huge, isn't it? That's a lot of breccia.
Yeah. There's a lot more drilling still to come, I think.
Especially when you sort of look at these empty areas up here and yeah, the best could be yet to come. Ah! I don't know what that noise was.
Disappointing that we've got dust so far at the other targets.
Yes, yeah, there is, but I
2 drill holes pending, but nothing
yeah.
like Apollo or any of those sort of bits. Which look, it's right next to it. I'm almost hoping that when these things happen, there's a bit of space between them, just about a scallywag-sized space.
Yeah, no, of course, but I mean, this is the thing, isn't it? Is that from our point of view, like we see this as not so grand, but the geologists could be really excited. They could see things that it's telling them that actually you need to go another, more to the left or more to the right or down a little bit more. I mean, we don't know, do we? It's easy to make those assumptions, I guess. So this is the 3900 view. That's quite high up, I think, isn't it?
I think it's worth just dwelling slightly on that. On that northern breccia result. 84 meters at 3.2 grams. Let's find where that is on the map. Had 98 wedge 7.
It's right there, actually. Look at that. It's just here.
Yeah.
So actually, you could see this yellow area potentially filling out a bit more.
Wedge 7. So had 98 wedge 7 there highlighted in yellow on this report. So again, is that a lot of these are in link zones, aren't they? Just linking it all together.
Yes, I think
That's
if we
between
go
the
back
northern
to that,
breccia and the southeast crescent.
hit this area here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or there. Yes, look, there's 98 wedge 5. That's in that area.
Yeah, so that eastern and northern look like they're eventually going to join up, don't they?
Yeah, whereas 98 wedge 7 is actually really quite high up.
Yeah. It's more northern breccia, southeast crescent link.
Yeah, across that way. Yeah, I'll agree with that. I'm sure Bamps is either shaking his head or agreeing with us. Someone has just said, I now need... Page 15, the Jury Joint Venture. The Jury Joint Venture is a farm-in and joint venture agreement with Greatland with respect to Black Hills Patterson Range East projects, located within the Patterson province, approximately 50 clicks from Telfer. The joint venture covers an area of 248 squared meters, kilometers even. Newcrest has 51% interest in Jury, and the joint venture is managed by Greatland. Drill programs completed at Alpha 9 and Tama in September return no significant new results. Target generation and project review activities are underway during the seasonal suspension of fill programs. Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was expecting anyway, actually, when you look at the way that...
Doesn't say who's going to be managing it.
No, I always think we are still, aren't we? Because we're the manager.
For how long? I thought that was
Oh, I don't know. I'd need to check that one.
2022.
Because that's what they do, isn't it? I mean, Sean will tell you he'll stick one drill in and then let's see what it says to let it tell us what it's doing. So they know now. Now they have drilled every target in Black Hills and Patterson Range East. So now for next year, they should maybe show us what they think is their best target, because that's what they'll go and drill first.
Yeah.
So is it me, or have Newcrest got a bucket load more projects going on all of a sudden?
Does seem it, doesn't it? I haven't seen Mount Coulon in Queensland before.
No, or the Gomorrah project in Ecuador. Okay, cool. So Decay says, I'm just gonna because I can. Page 52 drilling results and some abandoned holes detailed. So it looks like we're off to page 52 next. I've not seen, unless it's on a. Excuse me, I've got an itchy nose. Unless it's on another sheet, the length of the. I know Dip's seen it, but the length of the decline.
1,500 meters.
Nice.
1516 according to Dip, if I read that correctly.
So I mean that's kind of depending on how you want to define it, halfway, isn't it?
Mm.
I mean the original mine plan had us at 2,700, I believe. I think it was about 2,700. So you know, we could be over halfway now, and hopefully doing some spirals. I mean, that would be nice, wouldn't it, to start some.
Absolutely. We need a bit of excitement in what's otherwise slated to be a rather dull first quarter of the year.
Yeah, I've managed to find that now. So I'm going to go back to. I'm going to pull the screen share up to there. Hit the screen share button, and over we go. So this is the drill hole data. I'm not going to go into this too much. We've already covered them. I think the maybe I'll come back with Bamps in a week or so and go through them with him. But if we come back to this next page, look at all these. Yeah. Oh, wrong button. It's not working. Why is it not working? It's supposed to be zooming and it's not.
A lot of abandoned holes there, isn't it?
Yes, that's what I'm trying to zoom in on. Control L. Oh gosh, that's blown it.
And I don't quite remember seeing them report resource infill hole and not give any results for it.
No. But maybe they're being more. I mean, I don't want to be putting words in their mouth, but maybe they're being more open, more transparent.
By not giving results.
No, in as much as like abandoned holes and stuff, because normally that wouldn't get reported, would it?
The abandoned hole, fine, but a resource infill hole either has no significant results or some results. And if they're more than not significant, then they are significant in my view. But either way, it doesn't seem like there's any big language change in the way this has been written, but then it's probably written around the same time everything was happening with Mr. Biswas.
And quite possibly
has been pushed out.
Written by the same person that wrote the last one. So there's a nice picture for you. I hate the fact I can't hear myself doing my nut. Yep, there's a nice plan section for you. Oh, here we go. Look at this. This is the sort of stuff I need to zoom in, and I don't know how to. Anyone?
Control and scroll up.
Well, that's normally what I do, but it was skipping pages.
Yeah, page.
Guys, it's
page
really
54 is the one we always love.
It's really sensitive. Look at that. There we go, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I give you what we know and what we don't know. Oh, look at that. That's your Eastern breccia, isn't it?
Yeah. Huge.
And it falls off the page down the bottom. So, huh?
Very impressive. I mean, it's obvious to me now that this is moving away from the exploration side of things and how big is this to how much can we get out from it, how quickly, and how much money can we get, and from there, what do we do with that money? Because I think they're going to drill this for years and years and years to come.
Yeah, and as I've still got a comment up. Sorry.
Possibly never even get to all of it. I mean, they're still drilling parts of Telfo and finding little bits here, there, and everywhere, and scraping the bottom of the barrel. I think You know,
Yeah.
and that's my main question for Sean tomorrow is, again, looking at it, you just go down, cherry pick all of the high grade bits to get as much money up front as possible to then fund your block caving and to then fund, all the other exploration, which suits us perfectly.
Mm.
It totally and utterly does not suit Newcrest, and that's the one thing that remains still bugs me is that are we to believe that all of this dragging of the feet and excluding us and playing games was all around the 5%, because we haven't seen a notable change since then, and it just doesn't make sense. We keep there's 20 million tons that can go through Telfer. Why isn't there a parallel block cave study in here? Why isn't there a mention at all, or even discussion around hoists or second declines or conveyors or any method to get? I completely understand why there isn't from GGP's point of view, because this is perfect for GGP. But for Newcrest, if you're an investor of Newcrest, you're surely still sitting here going, you keep talking regional hub, nothing else is remotely close to production. I'm talking 5 years away. Even if something's discovered or any of these other JVs you're working on other than ours, there's no talk of getting any more out any quicker. And yet there's, I don't know, what's at the moment 2 megatons into 20. There's how much extra capacity there. It's staggering. It's 10 times. There's 10 times more that can go out. And obviously, I'm oversimplifying this, and maybe this is a great question for BAMS, but it just makes perfect sense. You would do a small conveyor decline in parallel to this, even if it's coming from the same heading to assist you with trucking it out and taking it out from source. There's been no discussion about it, or it's almost as if there's a gagging order and someone signed an NDA. No one will talk about getting any more out any faster. And we as GGP shareholders must just be super happy that it's tailored, made for our mid-cap size. I am, but there's an elephant in the room. The people driving the show don't seem to want to get it out any quicker, and I can't get my head around that.
I understand. I want that one. I'm just sorry. I'm just multitasking like you'd never believe.
Decline average in the comments 6.2 meters a day if they worked all over Christmas.
I know they did.
So page 9 of the quarterly report to read about decline progress.
It looks something like. Oh, why are you doing this to me? You're supposed to be opening that document. Just a quick rant here while I'm doing this. Why is it that Chrome always insists that I open my PDF in Chrome, even though I've hit download to open it?
We need the quarterly report, not the exploration report.
Yeah, I've got it on my screen, just not in the right. Oh, here it comes. Here we go. Make that full screen. Let's go. There we go. Oh no, you're now looking at the wrong screen. Oh,
Jamie's saying, can you say hello to my friend Tom? He really loves your videos.
Oh, hi Tom.
I wonder if I know said Jamie.
Uh-huh. That one, I think. They're all dated the same, so yeah, that looks about right.
Charlie says on the chat, surely we have to wait for a new study before they start talking about additional methods. And I think I agree. And maybe that's why I've got some probably misplaced hope that the feasibility study has been pushed back for this very reason. For, potentially Sandeep's been moved out. The new lady has come in and said, hold on. We need this stuff out as quickly as possible. The 5%'s gone. Start again and tell me how you can get more out quicker. And they're talking about hoists and second accesses. Or maybe, Choddy, you mean, the study was only ever around the initial bit, and as it's grown bigger, there's no sense in looking at that until you've got the initial bit totally nailed down. But that seems too simplistic for a multi-billion organization. Just hire a new guy to look at a parallel study and come together at the end, and you can either do both or one or the other. But Yeah, just saying, I tell you what, let's do 3.5, 4 years work, and then we'll wake up to the bigger opportunity after, shall we? The bigger opportunity's got to be filling the other 17 megatons of the two A and B trains at Telfer, surely.
Yes. Well, ground conditions at Havieron improved during the quarter, with 1,519 meters completed as of the 18th of January. That's only a week away, a week ago. Work streams to support the development of the feasibility study continues to progress, with various value enhancing options underway to maximise value and de-risk the project. An update on timing expectations for the study will be provided as these value enhancing options are further assessed, which means they're going to tell the market and they're going to signpost it. Hey, there's a feasibility study coming in 3 weeks' time.
Yep.
Thanks very much, Newcrest. Arse hats. The growth drilling program continued to confirm the potential for mineral resource growth at Havieron, with drilling results identifying further higher grade extensions to the mineralization in the northern breccia, eastern breccia during the quarter. The latest drilling results for the Havieron project are included in the December 2022 quarterly exploration report, which we've just read. Now,
Gosh, I mean, other than the numbers there, I think it's the identical 2 paragraphs from last time.
I will definitely agree with that. So DK asks about page 52. What are the MEC and NOR results at the bottom of the table? Now, because I really quite badly fluffed up trying to switch between the two, I thought I'd come back to me and Stu. Stu can share some words of wisdom while I'm looking for it, and we'll come back in a moment. Stu, over to you.
Well, the good thing I can share is that gold is behaving as we hoped it would behave, as far as my expectations 3 weeks ago. But it's quite funny because I've been listening to gold bugs and Kitco videos and all sorts for years, being a gold bug myself, and you kind of just keep thinking, look, one of these days these guys are going to be right, and it's always next year or the year after that the macro is going to be perfect. And I must admit, I remember having a bet in a pub somewhere with a friend, and his was a crypto currency and mine was GGP, and I remember saying October 2023 or 2022 would be when we would have totally taken off, and this, that, and the next thing. And it just makes me think everything seems to get pushed out and pushed out, but thankfully the gold macro seems to get pushed out alongside it. So all I want is gold to be at well in excess of $2,000 just about the time we go mining, and that should be the perfect catalyst for us to see the second wave of the SON curve, where hopefully this time we'll all remember to take some profits.
Of course. Now, I've just realised, last time I was scrolling up and down and trying to work out why it wasn't working. Turns out if you click on it and activate it, then the actual control mouse wheel works. Whereas last time I was on the... What are you drinking? Sorry, I've just noticed...
This is actually a bottle of Tesco's finest Argentinian Malbec.
Oh, lovely. I'm on PG tips this week.
Favorites.
So DK asks, I'm going to bring the comment back just because I can. What are the MEC and NOR results at the bottom of the table? So the results are here, which I believe we got last time around before Christmas.
What's interesting is MEC is the step outs, aren't they? Where they're the ones outside the resource, and so's the NOR.
And the interesting part there is how far they've gone. There's a big difference between MEC and MEC Wedge 1, isn't there? That's a huge...
I suppose the first one obviously abandoned at the top of the... It's obviously broken off as it's got through the Permian, maybe.
So there's not much going on there, really. This always begs the question, though, and I think Bamps and a few of the technical guys always ask it. No significant results, but what is there? Are there Pathfinder elements? In what capacity are there Pathfinder elements? What have you found? Please tell us what is in those cores, because actually we'd quite like to know what you've got down there. Because if you turn around and say, well, actually, we found a bit of arsenic and a bit of lead and a bit of all those other things that, is it bismuth, that are all sort of pointers to, hey, there's a bit of gold around here somewhere. Well, that's something for us to, not get excited about, but you get excited about it, don't you? Do you know what I mean? You're sort of, do you know what? We might be in the right area. Cool. Good for
Well, it's
us.
strange because Sean's intimated he knows there's nickel there. That's been the long kept secret that there's nickel there. Whether or not in commercial, quantities, almost doesn't matter. Uh, Why can't they report that they have? Why can't they report anything other than gold and copper? Does it have to then be fully commercial and only then it's commercially sensitive? Again, it's a strange one, but you do sort of get the feeling that I think at least from the town halls that Sean said, as soon as and if it is ever seen as significant, GGP will report it if we wanted to.
Yes. I've lost that bloody page that I was on. I wanted to just check.
Tom's drinking Stella.
I just wanted to check where 169 and 170 were. We've got a few more diagrams here that we never actually covered. Look at that one.
So 2 in the resource and 2 out. Is that right?
Yeah. Including your wage had 98, wage 7.
So right outside.
Jubbly. Bamps is going to be doing his pieces the way I'm scrolling around on this screen. Right, so that's somebody else's nonsense. So I need to find 69 and 70, did I say? 169 and 170. Let's come back to us before people start spewing up all over their beds or wherever they are. Uh, 169 and 170 is...
Yeah, I think the hard bit at the moment is, I don't know about if it's the same for you, Liam, or others in the group, but I know what to do. I just don't have the fiat money to execute it. A lot of people will say in this bear market and these sort of times is when all the money is made, and I totally agree. All the junior miners, mid-tier, even senior miners are all massively undervalued, historically undervalued. You've got cryptocurrency, way down. There could, of course, still be a larger crash, and if the guys are right, recession into 2024. But put it this way, I'd much rather be putting in some money monthly or weekly now than I would have during 2020 or 2021. So the only difference being I don't have any spare money. I think a lot of people are feeling that cost of living crisis. I think even if you didn't receive free money from the government, like the majority of us, I would assume, during COVID, you weren't spending your own money, which kind of made you have that money to invest. And I don't have an extra 100 or 200 or 300 pounds to invest in pound cost or dollar cost average into what I see as a potentially underpriced market, hopefully bottoming out over the next year or so. So yeah, tough one. I'd love to be in the topping up camp right now. Oh, and we seem to have lost Liam. Well, that's not good. Can everyone else still hear me? Well, this is fun. Let me share my screen so you don't have to have a look at my face. Loud and clear, Stu. I know that means I'm all alone. All right. Let's change it from this then to a prettier picture. Well, I'll just keep talking about the macro for a bit then. Not sure what you guys think, but I think I agree with a lot of the talking heads I've been seeing over the last little while that we're in for some really dire dire times. Do I think it can continue further from here? In gold, I'm hoping not. I'm hoping we're sort of a leading indicator for the markets, really. Historically, we are totally underpriced, the whole sector. Gold's performing well. I think we need to see it break its old all-time high before we really see a switch in sentiment. But if I'm honest, it's one of those bittersweet moments where you're sitting there wanting yourself to do well, but realizing that we're tied to an asset like gold, which only does well in bad times. So you've got to always keep that in mind. I think it's a bit of a balance between the two. I think I'm invested in gold as a store of value rather than an investment in the physical form, and then invested in a leveraged form on juniors. And like many of you have ridden this back down, dreaming of times gone by and a difficult year ahead. So you're sort of faced with this choice: do I keep some cash aside? Do I stay all in? Do I top up if my means allow? I think that's always, as always, when it comes to financial advice, it's down to your individual circumstances and what you can afford. But it really, it's my 8 or 9 years of investing now. This is certainly the worst outlook, the worst 12-month outlook I've ever seen for global economies. The de-dollarization, the bifurcation of the world essentially into the West versus the East. Every day I read something new coming out that only 2 or 3 years ago I would have thought was just impossible to hear. So it's a difficult one because I'm quite focused on the macro at the moment, and it's rather depressing. There we go, Choddy. Stop cheering us up, Stu. Cheers, Choddy. Well, the other side of the macro, of course, thinks that the Fed have already overdone it. We've already seen a lot of those effects, and that there's going to be a pivot starting with a 0.25 on the 11th of Feb. Possibly then stopping, possibly then reversing towards the end of the year. And I think we all know what to expect when interest rates stop or reverse and start coming back down. Gold's the winner. On the depressing front, I just hope that gold goes up enough to make us all rich, but not up enough so that we don't really want to live in the world that caused it to go up so much. That's probably my thesis. But on GGP, another great set of results. As I say, for me, there's still a few elephants in the room here. I want to see what we should have been reading now. Really, in 2 weeks' time was a feasibility study. We should have also had an updated resource. It feels like we're always a year behind, and it feels like the timescale's always been kicked out 6 months in advance. So you kind of feel like you're 18 months behind the game or behind the benefit you should be receiving. I think that changes when you got revenue coming through the doors, which is why I'm so excited for the resource. But yeah, it's a hard slog for me. I'm all in. I like to stay just deadly focused on GGP. It's where I want to be. It keeps my focus laser. And so I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting on my hands waiting until production. But it would be nice to have a bit more meat on the bones. We've been waiting a long time for the data to catch up, Newcrest to stop playing silly buggers. It's a big 12 months, and I think Sean needs to deliver. I think at this time, by the end of this year, I've already promised myself I'll need to make a decision on whether I hold this share for life or whether I start scaling out. And I think by the end of this year, I should certainly know some of those reasons. And I'm just hoping it's on a really nice second Lassonde curve. And then, of course, the tricky bit becomes, well, hold on, the Lassonde curve obviously starts coming down because you start depleting your resource after you initially start production. That doesn't really apply the down curve here from what I've seen. Not only does production ramp up from year 1 to year 2 to year 3, and only then start plateauing back down. By year 3, we've had hopefully our payback period, and you're now looking at moving on to a whole new feasibility study, new resources for the eastern breccia and the northern breccia, and feasibility studies for the block caves. So that's tricky because I haven't seen too many where how do you work a Lassonde curve when you've got ongoing exploration, something that's still open in all directions, such as the eastern breccia, but you're also mining this high grade stuff, which is giving you, 120 million revenue a year. Yeah, hopefully we don't see that reduction, but I'm also going to look at that very carefully because I think a lot of people said, well, hopefully we won't see the drawdown, after the first wave, and of course we did. Oh no, Liam, you came back and then you disappeared. Some comments. I hear you, Stu. It's Dave Rogers, by the way. Hi, buddy. Stu, what's your take on these results? I haven't heard you yet getting excited by anything tonight. It's more of the same, I think. What I was hoping to see tonight was that 1,500 decline number. I think that's what excites me the most. Because as I said, what we all know, if you've been in this share for a while, is this is already over 10 million ounces, well over it. You can look at any of these diagrams and see that if we carry on doing this, we're going to be into that 20 million. So I've no doubt this is a 10, 20, 30-year mine. I just think what's going to get me excited now is probably what's going to get a new investor excited now. And that's going to be production. This is, yes, we've got a lot of dust that we can go drilling, but we don't know how much money we can spend on drilling that dust yet until Newcrest give us the numbers from their feasibility study and we get decision to mine and so on and so forth. So we're in stall mode, and I can't, obviously the market smelt this out, this full 1 to 2 year hiatus, just like predicted on the Lassonde curve. But naively on my part, perhaps I didn't realize all the things that went into that, because I just thought the focus would be on the resource. And I think if I look in hindsight now, when the resource came and it became, yes, this is feasible, it's almost certain we're going to move down the route of mining this, people and the market have sniffed out the economics of that. And I think I'm beginning to come to terms with the fact that I know we're valued at 20p, but I don't know if we see 20p before production until we can demonstrate a way of getting this stuff out faster, or we can demonstrate, something new to what we read every 6 weeks. And that's probably why I'm not jumping out of my seat. Other than that northern breccia, that was a really good result. 3 point whatever grams. That's high grade in the northern breccia, and it's in a link zone between the southeast crescent and the northern breccia. So, that is a big result, and I am excited about that. I think the eastern breccia results are just what you'd expect, long intercepts with over 1 gram per ton, i.e. perfect block cave material. So everything's as expected. There's nothing really to be excited about, and the disappointing parts are the fact that we've missed the step out zones outside of Havieron, the fact that, as we already know, we're down to 3 rigs, but I think we've seen that from the satellite photos. We've been down over this wet season and over the hot season. And so they're back in March. At least there's still 3 rigs, and they're still working on the decline 24/7. So that's huge in itself. But it's a dry period, and with the resource being pushed out from February now to, we're not sure yet, July or August, alongside, again, not sure yet, but the new feasibility study. It seems there's a few risks creeping in around the length of time for me. We've been pushed out 6 months, 8 months a couple of times now, and there's the odd risk creeping in now. Okay, when we get this feasibility study at 3 megatons, is the infrastructure going to add another 6 months? Are we now going into production mid 2025? All these things I think the market has been sniffing out over this long period of time alongside the macro, and it's unfair of where we are now, but I think in the same breath, for a new investor, you probably just wait. There's nothing in our immediate future to I don't think we're going down. It would be unfair certainly to go down from here, but that's why I'm not jumping for joy with these results. Just if there's no reason, if I invest now or somewhere in the June time where we might be getting some of those new results back and we're getting a bit of hype around the feasibility study, you'll probably get in within 5 to 10% of today's share price, and you could have done something with your money from now until then. or just kept it in cash in case the Fed or anyone else decides to black swan us along the way, in which case no one's immune. Where did you leave? You left me drunk and rambling.
My internet just went boff. So I'm actually changing. I'm actually going over to fiber soon. I'm not on fiber
Wow.
at the moment. I'm on a different kind of technology to fiber, and it's solid most of the time. But the dropouts are just, yeah, I've had enough. I've been with them like since 2014, so you know it's fair enough. There was a question in there that Mark asks, as expected, that we are definitely going to mine. I mean, Sean alluded to it. He reckons that decision was made in 2019. When do you think, Stu, that will be? All being well,
When do I think what?
we'll mine. When's your target on mining? Do you reckon?
It was 2023. Now it's mid 2024. Before first pour mining is my anticipation now. There'll be mining and testing of the trains and all sorts of other bits, and there'll be fanfare and words used. But when's our first gold bar? I'm thinking mid 2024. But again, if Sean comes out tomorrow and says, the next resource update's in August, and I can't tell you when the feasibility study is coming out, I can't tell you when we're going to be mining either. The good thing is they're still digging the decline. They're still, extending the contracts for the decline. Nothing's changed except, as they say, they're value enhancing. I want to believe the conspiracy birdie on my right shoulder, and that conspiracy birdie is saying the board went into Sandeep and said, "You fucked up. You got owned by SD. You lost us for a pittance, 5% of this mine, and these guys are just going to do like SolGold did and just sell it out in royalties straight under you for a bunch more money. You're an idiot. You've had your bullying against you. You're out." And I'm hoping this lady coming in right underneath him, who already works at the company, will have been looking at what are his most obvious mistakes. It's waiting to step into his shoes, and maybe she's sitting there going, no, 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 delay that feasibility study. We're putting in a second conveyor decline here. We're filling this stuff up to 10 megatons, and I don't care if it takes an extra 6 months.
Do you know what it is, though, Stu? She was the one that did it. She was the one that square looked him in the eyes and went, "You fucked up."
I hope
And the
so.
rest of the rest of the board were like,
I
"Golf
hope,
clap."
I hope she's a strong bitch and just went, "You fucked up. Get out. Just get out."
Your days are numbered, Sandeep.
Yeah. That could be it. One thing we've noticed with these big mates is they move, painfully slow. What we do know with our board, and this is where it's going to come into our own, which is why 2023 is pivotal for us. Those people are not going to stick around and be made to look idiots, which frankly GH and CB and former management here have been in hindsight made to look idiots, or at least certainly not in control of possibly what they found. If we get strung along, and all of this is one elaborate game, the people we have on our board can smell that out from a million miles away. Walk into those rooms and say, no, why aren't you doing this? So, it will become a more direct line of questioning for Sean, I suspect, over the next year. The problem is he's got a perfect answer. Well, what do you mean? This is tailor-made for us, the way they're doing it, and for we don't have to go and raise finance for extra stuff. We just use one to pay for the other. But I kind of want to ask the question to the new CEO of Newcrest, because it's that side that doesn't make sense to me. It does make sense to me for us to do things in a lean way, like you always would any startup business. To take the least risky route, which would be wait till we've got revenue and then pay to explore the other stuff. But when you've got revenue and huge cash reserves like Newcrest, and you're 45 kilometers down the road, and it just nothing makes sense. They're spending 150 million. They've already spent 350 million on the Telfer extensions. I can tell you what, a second decline at Havieron with a conveyor running from Newcrest to Telfer wouldn't cost 350 million. So what am I missing? What am I missing? Am I just being ignorant? Do I just not understand how much goes in here? If you've already, it can't just be about studies and checking things out. Go go in 1 meter or below the decline you've just built. Sorry, parallel to it. Follow the same path where there's no gold already. All the studies that told you could dig there, go in right next to it, just with a conveyor, and you now have two access points. So it still doesn't make a lot of sense. So I think, yeah, overall, I'm slightly disappointed, not in the results, not in anything. I'm very happy with the decline progress. Just disappointed that it looks like we're going to be in a non-news period for some time.
Yeah, and every man and his dog's
I'm
going to
not
know when
looking
the
forward to
news is coming.
Scallywag.
But then,
You know,
well, that's the thing, isn't it? Like, that's what we really, really, really need to happen. Is that unknown? All right, yeah, Newcrest of controlling the Havieron story, but there's more stories than Havieron. I appreciate it. Nothing's going to happen right now unless the board are doing something like, I don't know, spending some money and buying our way into the ASX, or something like that, which is a possibility. Um, but a strike at Scallywag or Rudel. I mean, if Rudel's that has not been reported yet, I don't think. Um, uh, I mean, it's dust. It's always going to be dust, but you can't rule it out. We're an elephant country. They
No,
could.
and with the 300 whatever million market cap, 400 million market cap, you're not going to jump even on a semi good result. It would have to be a had five discovery hole to jump. So I think the good thing is we're not susceptible. I don't believe they come out tomorrow and announce the Scallywag and Rudel results, saying there's nothing, not even a pathfinder. There's just ostrich poo. Then
It's camel poo.
yeah, I mean, you'll still have the same guy selling 100,000 shares on repeat every day, like always, right? Right? I just, yeah, it's not going to change things. What is going to change things is when the chains come off, and we know how much we need to spend here, because this is what's the delays are not just affecting and pushing out potentially production, all in the name of value enhancing. Well, I'll believe it when I can see it, because all they've tried to do is destruct value up until this point with us. So I'm moving more into the skeptic camp, and I think maybe certainly next time I'm in a room with Sean, he'll get more direct answers that I'll press him for an answer on, because this is tying up our hands. Until we have that DFS, we don't know how much of the surplus we raised is free to be aggressive on either acquisitions or drilling. So all of the ASX listing and all of that, is all tied into the same stuff. We are in stall mode until Newcrest decide we aren't.
Now let me ask. This could be a bit of a sorry, comment just flashed up, made me chuckle. Contentious to even ask this, Stu, and then your bottle of wine in, you might get a bit ranty on it, but it makes for
Only
good
first
viewing.
class, actually.
Oh, okay.
I've been up since 5. It's been a busy start to the year at work.
Not so much ranty then. If they come out and say, look, we're buying XYZ for 400 million, we're going to dilute the company and raise, and we have those funds because we're going ASX and we've got this, and this. Will you take that? Would you take that move? Because it's a positive move, even though it includes more dilution. And obviously, there's no right or wrong answer to this, but just take your take on it.
Wow, you couldn't have asked me a harder question. You couldn't have, because of course you've got to at first I'll put in what always should go first at these things, and that's management. And you've got to forget what came before. You've got to forget we're no longer exploration. We're kind of mid-tier developers now with an exploration arm, but the development is our focus. But you've got this board there, and you've watched. You only have to look at their CVs to almost sort of go, it's a stitch up. It's a stitch up. It's a bit like any government or big corporation. There's just too many tenuous links, and it's a nice story, and that's what mining is all about. It's a nice story. I can see the reasons for everyone wanting to join, and they're entrepreneurial, and there's past track records of all of these people growing companies and growing them via acquisition. What I don't know is whether those shareholders who started made or lost money, or whether they got diluted and sold along the way because they couldn't hold for the ups and downs. So it's difficult because the half of me that says I'm going to hold every single one of my shares, right up until I first start taking my pension, or potentially hold these shares for life and just live off the dividends. That dream, which I've always had about being an all-in one share man, would be to not have to sell, to just have to sell when I needed, and for the dividends to sort of keep paying you. And that is my dream with GGP, and I think that is probably best achieved through the current method, which is slowly over a fucking long time.
Yeah, it just means by the time we get there, that
You know,
hairline of yours
I have
is.
no doubt my dividends will be worth a lot more in 15 years' time if we go that route and we use the Southeast Crescent to fund the block cave, and we go it alone. The problem is, it's that old chestnut. Would you take £1 million in 15 years' time, or 250 grand in 3 years' time? What's it going to be? What stage of your life are you at? Where do you? They're all different things, And I suppose that the whole reason it's a hard question for me to answer is I'm a different investor hat for different people in the family. And again, if I look at my two daughters, 5 and 2. I don't want them to dilute me any bloody more. Just take as long as you need to mine this out, and hopefully, if I'm right, in 15 to 18 years, both of my daughters will have a house deposit and a wedding fund and a varsity fund and whatever else. Then there's me sitting here thinking at 42, God, I'd love to retire at 50. That gives me 8 years. What could be achieved in 8 years? Do we have a block cave? Are we extracting? Have we, for me, I think looking at Northern Star, I'm sitting there going, shit, I trust you guys. You've come here to make money and to grow this company. You've done it before at previous places, and you only got to read the board, the GGP board, to see these people's CVs. I don't think there's any bio there that doesn't describe M&A. Having run M&A. So what the hell are they all here to do for 30% of Havieron? You're just here to hope that we hit some dust and manage the hell out of our 30% of Havieron. I mean, that just can't be, right? They're going to grow this company through M&A. But I think how that happens, when it happens, now is the time it should be happening. Things are dirt cheap. This is where we should. Newcrest have ruined our plans here. We've overraised, and I think even overraised over what our 3 megaton expectations were. And we should have a PFS right now, which for the juniors is still pretty much the bottom of the market. And these big hitters should be out there buying up distressed, good licenses, dirt cheap, during the bear market, with the overraise that we did also during the bear market that's left us, here at 8.2p. But they can't, because they don't know if they've got 1 million left over or 25 million left over. And that is... They can't go drilling there. It feels like we got our hands tied, and I'm not sure. And I'd like to know from Sean, I know you can't ask him this, but almost a hypothetical: if Newcrest were going too slow, and it was intentionally obvious, what would you and what could you do to combat that? We're obviously privy. By this stage, I think it's safe to assume, certainly not when we all thought we were involved in designing the PFS. I don't even think anyone saw the PFS from GGP until we saw it as investors. That's how uninvolved it sounds like we were. And only recently, within the last 6 months, have I heard of this new committee and a few first meetings. So I'm still of the assumption that we aren't really privy to the detail here, certainly not on a dynamic basis. And at what stage does that change? How do we get Jimmy Wilson in a room with these guys and calling bullshit if we're being slowed down? If I'm right, calling things out and saying, well, we should be doing this. Why aren't we doing that? Okay, we'll put some extra money in to do that. Let's get doing that. Is this just taking this long? And I'm not sure it is. On a fast track with this obvious undercapacity, it's being pushed out, and there's not enough detail in it. The reasons for being pushed out and the timings, and everything's last minute. Sean doesn't know whether there's a resource update in February or that Newcrest have changed their reporting dates. There's a lot. You're almost sort of going, you guys don't just have a WhatsApp every couple of months, do you? There's more to the JV, right?
It does make you wonder. I mean, I was shocked as everybody when it kind of transpired that we were informing the managing director of the company that the Newcrest had changed the dates. Anyway, look, I'm just going to touch on a couple of comments that we've got coming through. Uh, Malcolm says the new members who have joined the board of directors are not going to allow things to drift. I think that's a fair comment. The Barnabas, the Gaines, and including the new shareholders, actually, Wailu, they're not going to sit around, are they? Jamie, your mate Jamie, who said we had to say hello to Tom. Hi, Tom. Says me and Stu are going to start our own hole. So it looks like you're going to Telfer, my friend, or Telfer and
I'll take my
Havieron.
bucket and spade. I tell you what, I'll get down. I'll get my hands dirty. I will. I'll probably be making a sandcastle, but I'll pitch up.
Hey, that'll do. Andy C says quarterly report states Telfer expected to continue operations into early FY25, being financial year 25. So, I mean, that's actually later this year, isn't it? Financial year 25, next year. I always get confused. Now, we need a clarification, please, because Bella's said 250 grand, because you did say that. The coffin lid is being readied for screwing down. Did you not mean 250 million? It was on a.
I certainly did mean 250 million.
Yeah, I think the comment was, do I take a million now or 250 grand in
Oh no,
in
no,
3 months?
no, no. Sorry, the comment, yeah.
Just that we should.
The same, 250 grand now or a million in 15 years' time. I think I'll take the 250 grand now.
Right, okay, that
15
way
years,
round.
15 years is a lot of time to make use of 250 grand.
Yeah, no, okay.
I'm not making any relation to GDP and our value. I'm making the hypothetical situation of those two investor hats. How long is long term? Sean
Uh-huh.
said judge me on 3 years. He's signed to be there for 4 years. This is all tying into Telfer being there to 25. The only thing that's not tying into anything is why we're not trying to get it out any faster. That's the only thing that's not tying in.
And that's pretty much about it. There's a few extra comments, but there's some speculation. I'll lead you to read the comment from Malcolm about you only being 42.
But cheers, Malcolm. Cheers. I think it's the Roy Keane grey that changes me to be, and the losing of the hair. I think if I was no, I'm just old. I just look old, I think.
Yeah. Dip says early Australian FY25 is second half of 2024 from the 1st of July onwards. So actually, interestingly, that ties in at the moment. That ties quite nicely with all these jobs that are advertising, aren't they? Because they're advertising from like the 1st of June, I think someone said. So that's actually they're going to start these people's jobs and then wind Telfer down with a little bit of luck. So we're still on. It looks like we could
That's
still
our
be on
time frame for sort of first pour, isn't it?
for first
Mid
door employer. Yeah.
2024. It's probably 6 months late than we would have thought 2 years ago. But it doesn't solve that same problem, and I think that's you asked such a good question, because if I saw the news report tomorrow from GGP announces the results of a placing to acquire so and so for no cash consideration, wholly in Greatland Gold shares, each so and so will receive so many shares, like Sol Gold have recently done with Cornerstone. I don't know. Because you don't know you've got to assume that they got it on the cheap, in good market conditions is the first thing. And you've then got to assume that all of these bigwigs had a hand in acquiring it. But I think that the elephant in the room here remains, and you said earlier, yeah, but Wailu aren't going to let it drift, and the new shareholders on board aren't going to let it drift. They don't have a choice, because we don't know how much money we have left. So unless you're going to do a placing like we've just talked about, with no cash consideration and wholly just getting us up to 6 billion or 7 billion shares, well, you better hope it's producing income immediately and has no capex requirements.
That would be the saving grace, isn't it? Is actually we'll take dilution if it means instant cash flow in a sensible sense, not like 50 quid a month or something, but a good positive cash flow would actually.
It's that offset. It's the same discussion as the 1/5 we gave away in dilution and the 20% and getting the 5% back. It's the same thing. If we buy something that's got a NAV of 100 million and we spend 100 million, then our market cap shouldn't change.
Yeah.
all you've done is swap shares for market cap value. Ideally, if you buy that as a distressed buy, it has some form of PE valuation to it, and the share price should actually theoretically go up because of that dilution if you've made a good acquisition. And then it doesn't matter how much my one share is worth; it matters how much my portfolio is worth. And that's the market cap's the thing to focus on here. How do we get that up? In line and commensurate with any acquisitions. But let's hope this first quarter or first 6 months we see something. But my worry is you want to be out there in the market without one hand tied behind your back. And until we know what spare money we have and some numbers around the feasibility study, we literally cannot do anything or make any major plans, which to me just extends out and kind of removes a lot of the excitement about being an AIM exploration sure investor. Yes, our way is to go through and drill one hole here and see the results, wait away. Fine, but if you've got lots of money, you can drill one hole in each of our 30 licenses. You can have multiple drill rigs doing this at the same time and having multiple assays come back. As it stands, we're going to do one hole. Wait what's been 3 months, but hopefully in the future 4 to 6 weeks. Then it's going to slow all of what makes Greatland Gold great outside of Havieron, and that's what pisses me off. Is how in control of that are we? Are we privy to these value enhancing whatever that's causing the delay, or were we told about the delay at the last minute like everything else, and we're still not really too sure why?
No, I hear you. Wendy's in the chat. I am really trying to work hard on Wendy's name that we know her by. And it was a pleasure to meet you, Wendy. We've all met Wendy at the town hall that I was at. But she says, surely Telfer can continue operations alongside Havieron. It's a massive plant. I think we're hoping to mine H124. Yeah, yes, but I think the problem is with that is they're having to spread their it's taking more and more ore to get the gold out, isn't it? It's becoming quite thinly spread now.
It's just simple economics. So I think at the moment, if I'm not mistaken, they're making a loss or very close to a loss. They've spent obviously all this additional 150 million in scraping the barrel, so to speak, with extra drilling, but they've mined it out for 30 years. There's low grade, and as I understand it, when you get into the metallurgy surrounding these trains, they need to be quite specifically calibrated. You can't sort of show up to train A with a truck of Telfer ore and a truck of Havieron ore and dump them both in. It doesn't work like that. So
No.
I think initially you have to split the two into train A and train B. So initially we wanted that 3 megatons. There is no other way to be using that spare 7 megatons of capacity per annum. If we're putting R3 in there, you can't put someone else's 7 in there. It's all got to come from this. That's how I understand it, and again, happy for it to be corrected. But then train B, yes, you could continue mining. You might hit something at Telfer, but if you don't, you'll continue mining train B at a loss. And maybe you do that anyway, just to keep the staff present and to, keep living in hope. Or maybe it's a manageable loss and you want all that machinery not under care and maintenance, and until the extra decline or whatever else comes across in a variant. But I think the key is there are no other regional discoveries or regional ore feeds to address that whole empty 10 megaton train, which is an absolute beast. You can't just leave that dormant for 5 to 8 years whilst we build a block cave. It just doesn't make sense. And where else is it all going to come from? I think that's the key. They keep saying regional hub, but I don't see anyone far enough down the line.
How's this for some tinfoil conspiracy?
Mm-hmm.
Train B is going to get shut down,
Yeah.
but there's a big but coming. It's going to get repurposed for a nickel processing plant.
Oh, I like it. I like it a lot.
How's that? Yeah, we would just throw up like all of something like I did at Cadia with the molybdenum. I remember how to say it.
Yeah.
Didn't know? He just went, oh, by the way, we're building a molybdenum plant. Here we go. And we're just gonna, yeah. So yeah, just all of a sudden, just like, oh yeah, by the way, we got a nickel plant. Thanks very much. Yeah, no, I don't know. I mean, it is what it is. But I agree with you because there is. I mean, is it Winu?
But Winu, I mean, Winu's owned by Rio. It's copper for the most part,
Yeah.
and it's. I mean, I don't know when I last heard anything about Winu, but there's certainly never been anything I've read. Again, correct me if I'm wrong. That has suggested they want to send their ore feed and pay a tolling fee at Telfer.
They
Everything
will
I've
be.
ever read about Winu is that they're going to build their entire own processing plant. So
Yeah.
even those in the region, and look, Winu's still quite far, isn't it? It's 150 kilometers away or something like that. So it would have been a big ask to be trucking it there anyway. But what else is it? There's Minyari Dome. Can you think of anything that is within 5 years of
No,
having ore delivered to that second train?
no, and that's the problem, and what we're
I
waiting
can.
for.
Havieron with a second access.
Well, yeah,
And I'm
that
Newcrest CEO, incoming or aspiring. Is it or is it not the elephant in the room? That's got to be addressed, and it's soon.
yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, and that's the problem, isn't it? Because that's what we're waiting for. It's going to be an instant, let's just call it a penny for the sake of it. The minute somebody within a 50-kilometer circle goes, oh shit, we've got gold of a decent quantity, that's confirmed elephant country. Do you know what I mean? I know we keep talking about it, and we know we are because of the lay of the land, but no one's proved a single part of it yet, least of all us.
No, this is it. And look, I think you've always got to accept that there's always risks with these. The decline could collapse. We could have a death. We could have a night parrot. We don't have all the full improvements. And I hate it when people go, it's as good as mine. The decision to mine's been already made. No, the intention to mine and the commercial nature of this has been demonstrated so far, enough for them to continue economically pouring money into it. But until we have a decision to mine and the permits in place and a full feasibility study, there are still risks that could lose us from this point if we didn't have a decision to mine 80-90% of our money. It's a non-zero possibility. It's very unlikely, and I think I'd jump off a bridge. No, obviously it wouldn't. But there's a lot that can still come around the corner, and I think I'm always now these days looking at the fact that this transition that's happened with us, if you're staying a long-term investor, couldn't be more different. The type of investor that comes for an exploration story is not planning to be around anywhere with his money for 15 years. Let me tell you, they are, they aim investors in for the pump and dump, following momentum, traders, whatever you want to call them. That story was perfect. We were all involved in it. Now you're dealing with a totally different kind of investor. And unfortunately, I'd like to say we used to have the edge. We used to be, let's chase that shiny thing. The community mentality, we got lucky. This thing turned into an absolute beast, and it, did its however many hundred multiples of its share price. Now you're into something that the real guys can get down and work out discounted cash flow analysis on. They pour over these numbers that we know are massively outdated, but they can work out, an actual value of this. And I think for me, this whole focus now needs to shift away from how big is it. And for some time, it needs to shift away from how big is it. We already know it's very big and has a 10, 20, 30-year mine life. So tell me, why does it matter? Why does, call it 1 million ounces? Why does 1 million ounces being pulled out of this thing in 20 years' time matter to the steward of today? Or the Liam of today, or the Liam, why doesn't that those ounces in 15 years time at the 15-year forward gold price matter to in 2 years time or 3 years time? So the size argument to me is now discounted. Yes, it's going to extend, but even if it doesn't extend, it's a 10 million ounce deposit, with a 20 million mine life. That's all you need. You don't need 20 million ounces, because those other ounces come a long way into the future, and really they make no sense to take into account now. They make perfect sense in the exploration story. How big could this be? What does that mean if you valued that resource today in today's money, which of course would discount those future ounces and the time factor attributable. Now the type of investor moving forward, the institutions that are slowly filling up our balance sheets, they are after new information, and it's not how big is this, and it's not even how high grade is one of those link holes. They really couldn't give a shit. They already know that this thing is mineable. They now are turning their eyes to revenue, and we're still pre-revenue, and we still don't know how much revenue we're going to be making, or how fast we're going to make it, or how long it's going to take us to get there, or how quick we can pay back our debt, or how quick we can spend our surplus money that we've raised. That's a lot of stuff for a new investor to consider, and I think this is the hard yards for anyone who's still involved, who's still invested. If I'm right, holding your bottle now, excuse the pun, and being able to average in and get your average down, if you're one of the lucky few over the next year, is what's gonna have been the hardest time in this journey. I believe. I really do.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. And good analysis. And actually, Pete Harrison says the same thing. Stu, good analysis amazes how focused you are on one company. Regards Telfer, if price of gold increases, Telfer remains economic. An uncomfortable truth for long-term delays to screw GGP. That really is I'm going to use the term bittersweet part of it, isn't it? Is the fact if gold goes up, Telfer gets to keep going.
Yes and no. So I think you'd have to look at how much, if gold goes up, how much. So I don't know. Can you get up the quarterly report and we go and have a quick look at Telfer's current all-in sustaining cost?
Yeah, you might even be able to share your screen.
I don't know.
While you're doing that, David George asks, "What about Ernest Giles? Are there not some quick wins there in the short term? What do you think?" Well, yes. I mean, if you ask Sean what he thinks of Ernest Giles, I believe it was along the lines of quote unquote, "It's a ripper." Um, he absolutely loves it. Callum absolutely loves it. But there is no infrastructure. There's nothing there. So by the time you've explored it and put some infrastructure in, and it's 10 years away before it mines. There's
I've only got the
unless it's shallow.
exploration results. Do you have the quarterly report?
This quarterly report that we just
Yeah.
had. Yeah, I do. Un momento, por favor. Oh, I closed it when I got angry with my internet.
It's worth actually going to have a look, because this is key information for us to see what I'm not sure if it'll be in there, but I assume it should be what Telfer's current all-in
Yeah,
sustaining
I've got
cost is.
some
But
Telfers.
last time I saw it, I'm pretty sure it was over $1,600.
Here we go. So I'm going to share that one. And then back to my share screen and pop.
There we are. Can we see what their AISC is? Right, so here we go. So look at that. September 2022 quarter, 1,800. So they're making a loss there, because gold in September 22 was what, 1630 or 1650. So they're making £100 to £200 loss. I think, I'm not sure what sorry, that's coming out year to date, all-in sustaining cost. Okay, 1,355. So there you can see it. So you've got your, is it declining or increasing? You're increasing all-in sustaining cost, but even over that period, you're averaging what, 1,500. So I think you'd have to see gold at 2,500 to 3,000 to start seeing Telfer make the profits that GGP are going to be making. And I think, as you can see there, in one quarter, they slightly made money at $1,895 all in sustaining cost. And in another quarter, they were 1,534. And that was in the December quarter, when gold started rallying in November. So you've made a £300 loss per ounce one quarter, and then you've made a £300 gain per ounce the next quarter. But Telfer's breaking even at the moment. So yes, if gold raises to 2,200, 2,300, they're going to make 300-400, and yes, they can continue using Train B. But that's certainly not the planning of Uber, conservative major. That's a lovely blue sky upside for them. As we know, we've seen their hedging and we've seen what their expectations are for gold. Always low, always uber conservative. So I don't think that the new CEO's backup plan is the gold price going up for them to continue Telfer. It can't have even been a consideration if they're a good CEO, right? It's got to be, how do we fill it with high grade stuff?
Yeah.
Quicker.
Yeah. Or Sean has reached across the table and said,
Average head grade 0.62 of a gram.
I'll give you $1 for it.
Well, and I must take on the billion pound, what's it, reconstitution cost.
Yeah, we'll sell that. It's fine. We'll get rid of it. It's fine. Um, yeah, no, and the Mingbat says that's what the 197 is there in brackets, and is the loss quantified?
Who said that, sorry?
Mingbat said that's what the 197 is right there at the bottom of the 22 quarter.
Right, oh, there we go.
Is the loss quantified?
Yeah, there we are. So for 2 consecutive quarters, i.e. half a year, no, more, 3 consecutive quarters, they've made a total loss. 2. But obviously, when you add those numbers up versus the 159,
yeah.
and this
Yeah,
is
I mean,
year to
it's a
date.
loss, isn't it? It's a loss.
Yeah. And look at that again. Look at that head grade. Copper virtually non-existent, and head grade 0.62. Even our Eastern Breccia is all, we're getting disappointed at above 1 gram grade, but most of it's double here already.
Oh my God, it's a gram. Oh, what a load of rubbish. But it does say
Does it say how many megatons they've processed in that table?
it says further down that 88k ounces was 4% higher than the prior period, mainly due to higher gold recovery with a lower proportion of aged stockpile material fed and higher mill throughput with improved plant utilization during the quarter. This was partly offset by lower gold head grade during the quarter with a slightly lower open pit ore grade fed to the mill. So they're getting rid of all the crap. Gold production is expected to increase in the second half of financial year 23, driven higher mill throughput and higher gold head grade as mining transitions into high grade ore zones in both the open pit and underground.
Yeah, and look, I think at that sort of AISC, $1,500 an ounce, I think that's US. You're right, they're making nice money at the moment, 300 to 400 ounces, and you go up to 2,200, you're making a hell of a nice money. I think the key is there's not many years left. Even at those high gold prices, it's at the end of its mine life. You'd have to keep expending money on either exploration or other stuff when you could be spending the same money down the road for much more impact. So it's, again, the focus surely wouldn't be on trying to wring any more value out of Telfer if you have a viable replacement.
And Costa agrees with you there. He says if they did stew, they would. Then would they not be missing out on even more profits from Havieron? That's absolutely correct. As you just said, if they're wringing the neck out of Telfer, why are they not wringing the neck out of Havieron?
This is it. I mean, you're looking at the average grade 0.06. I mean, what was our first PFS? Wasn't our Southeast Crescent about 3.8 grams average?
Yeah, it's quite high.
How much is that in multiples here? Then add your higher gold price to that, and forget about the fact that you only own 70% because it's actually 80% because we're paying the tolling charges and so on and so forth, and and 30% of the costs. And no matter which way I look at it, if I'm putting my CEO hat on, Telfer isn't in my future plans. Telfer's in my survival plans. And just get me to where I replace the ore feed for these 2 trains, and then I hit a blank, because until 2030 I can't see a clear route to filling train B from anywhere yet, unless you're going to discover something shallow and open pit it in 2 years somewhere in the region. Sure, maybe, but again, that's not in a plan. Someone who's poring over and delaying and adding value to feasibility studies on a clearly 10 to 20 million ounce you've discovered 45 kilometers away. If you're not thinking about getting more out faster, what are you thinking about? Or are there other problems and them, seeking value enhancing additional methods is code for shit? We found a big pool of water right at the top here that's screwing up all our plans. We as investors need to think about that. It's exactly the type of thing a corporate company would do. Let's close things down, drop down to 3 rigs over the wet season, and see if we can sort this out before telling anyone about this catastrophic thing we found. We have no idea. That's obviously conspiracy theory way offside. But if I know anything about its investing, is always assess something with a non-zero possibility. And I don't like seeing the same copy and pasted verbatim reports like this. They literally are copy and paste verbatim. There's a very little update of data when you look at the activity on site and the sheer amount of stuff that's going on. And I think now we've got to address, what are Sean and the team, and this is a great question for you tomorrow.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Well, whenever you email him to say congratulations for the results.
Yeah.
It's a great email question to say, look, ostensibly we could be waiting till July for an FS or August for an FS or anything else. We already know we're not throwing loads of money on drilling all of our targets. We don't know how much money we spend. So what can you, Sean, get us excited about as investors for the next 6 months? Because it's the elephant in the room, really, isn't it? It's the bottom of the market. We're expecting a lot of news. We'll still keep getting on drilling news, and we'll get scally, and we won't be able to spend much money targeting Ernest Giles or anywhere else because we won't know how much money we've got to spend. So at what point does Newcrest dragging their heels stop you making plans, or are you making all sorts of plans that will become apparent in the next 3 to 5 months?
Which I think leads nicely into Pete Harrison's comment, and I don't like it. And I don't like it because there's an element of truth to it. If I'm honest with you, Pete, I kind of actually half agree with you, and that's why I don't like it. I think you're missing the point, Stu. What value is a small loss leader or a small margin when you can screw your 30% partner to have cheap, small price to pay, or a business with a ruthless streak?
Yeah, I think that's that's a very valid point. I think. But how long? Don't forget, you've got Newcrest shareholders as well, and Telfer's a big plant. It is homegrown. It's in Australia. I know they're expanding out to the Americas or whatever else, but it's there.
I'm sorry. The next comment's a cracker. Keep going.
I've lost my train of thought now. What's the next comment?
So let's just write. David George says all I can hear is little Elios in 5 years' time saying, "Grandad, my ISA has more money in it than yours." I'll be like, let me tell you a little story about all the scallywag hype.
Brilliant.
There's some lessons there, David. Thank you for sharing that one. No, we were talking about Newcrest effectively dragging us into the ground.
Yeah, okay. And I think it's a good point. And I think it's probably the point that makes your earlier question, tips me over the edge as to what I'd like to see. Would I like to see us further diluted for a diluting asset just to grow the company? Yes. Because I think in that whole narrative or train of thought only works if they believe that we're just going to go nowhere. We're just going to sit on our hands. We're going to slowly spend money, and we're just going to be this silent little 30% partner that at some point you're going to be able to just gobble up. But if we're growing regionally, if we can see a path to one day being somebody that can actually maybe even make an offer for Havieron or Telfer, or if we can stand on our own 2 feet, then that's kind of removed. And again, I sit there thinking, just think of it as a Newcrest shareholder.
That's what you were saying. You were talking about Newcrest shareholders.
I'm a Newcrest shareholder. Telfer's, you've got a whole train. You've got all these historical production figures, and I know the capability of this plant. And I've now got to wait 5 years for the hope that you drive us into the ground by dragging your feet and doing this so slowly, thereby playing into our hands of having the starter mine fund the block cave. I mean, that plays into our narrative, really, them dragging their feet. Ultimately, if we don't have a second access, if we don't have a quicker block cave than 2032, it just means that we wouldn't have had to have any more debt. It just means that the Southeast Crescent would have paid for the Eastern Breccia. And I think that opportunity and that sort of line of thinking is gone, because you've got to look at it first and you've got to say, why didn't they buy us at 2p? Why didn't they buy us when 4 months after the had 5 discovery, we were still languishing at 1.2 pennies? We'd hardly fucking moved. In fact, I think we'd gone down for a brief period, if not mistaken, up and then back down again. Why didn't they buy us then? Why didn't they buy us at any stage through this? Why didn't they buy us during the 5%? Why didn't they buy us after the 5% in the window where they thought we had no finance? None of it makes sense. We are sitting there ready to just cash in going forward. We're not at risk other than our market cap. The only thing that puts risk on us right now is the fact that we're so cheap. And if they want to make an offer now, they could, but I don't think it gets through at 12p. I don't think it gets through at 15p. I think an offer now to be seriously considered by anyone, including institutional shareholders, needs to be in the 20-30p range, and I don't think they're going to make that. And why would you say? Because they can make it further down the line. I'm not sure. We're at 8p. You can make 150% offer and probably still have a less NAV value, in situ NAV value, than you will in 18 months' time when we have a DFS and 2 or 3 MREs from now. We've already demonstrated we'll release our own MRE if you fuck about and don't actually tell the market how big this thing is. So we're keeping our NAV, and we can keep on our NAV in line with market expectations, independently researched. So yeah, I agree there, Pete, and I agree it's the only explanation I can think for them not buying the 5% still, was that they hoped we wouldn't be able to get the finance, the share price would crash and they could get us for a low ball. Well, this is the moment, we're there. And Sean's protected us as best we can, and an offer's either coming in the next 6 months during this delay or value enhancing process, or it's not. But once the DFS is out, we're a revenue generating machine with a three-year payback. You're not getting us on the cheap.
No.
And so why would you have just dragged your heels for a year in between with a plant that's running a train that's not working? If you sped that up as the new CEO now and delivered 5 megatons to the B train within a 3-year period, that's going to bring you a lot more revenue over time. 70% is good. You don't need 100%. It's like saying, we're going to forget about the 70% we own just so we can get that extra 30%. But the 70% is more revenue than the 30%. Yes, the two combined is even more revenue, but not if you fuck up the revenue from the first 70%. If you delay that by 18 months, what's 18 months worth of revenue at 70%? Well, I can tell you it's probably the buyout price of the 30. So yeah, in my mind, I know it's a good line to look at, Pete, but I don't buy any business basically trying to not do their job. This is like you going to work and saying, I've got these 30 things to do, but I know I can get that dickhead down the hall in trouble if I just don't fucking do it and my clients suffer. It's just at a corporate level, semi-transparent, you're going to have an analyst or your shareholders going, what is going on here, guys? At some point, surely. So I don't buy it. I think they can only do this for so long, and maybe that was some of the tactics for the 5%. But
well, I think that's a great answer. Dip says, ultimately, we need to see revenue growth from non-organic channels at some point to become the next Northern Star. As a self-developing, a large project solo will take a decade plus, very capital intensive. Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly there. Whatever we do, our next move has to be cash flow. And he also said, going back on your previous comment, that we can't discount it. It might have been Sherry as the CFO who pushed not to purchase the 5%. Wasn't she the one that was talking about the 60% was better spent elsewhere? Given it would be mainly her remit to set fiscal policies such as hurdle return rates and stuff. I'm pretty sure there was a comment made in the interview afterwards. Like, they do the phone-ins and you get to listen to all the suits from all the banks. I'm pretty sure that they someone there, and it might have even been her, said, "Well, actually, we just thought we'd get for 60 million investment. We thought we could get a better rate of return elsewhere. Maybe like Bruce Jack or something. I don't know."
Which that's just it's such a cop out, and
It's
I don't
hogwash.
believe, I just don't believe it. Just to me, that would anger me as a Newcrest shareholder. He has an end of life mine with more than half, in fact, more than 75% of its capacity unutilized. But we're not going to take majority controlling interest or get any more of this of the solution to that problem. There's $1.5 billion tied up in that plant. I don't know. Put those numbers down on paper, and I think that's total rubbish. And it's still something that bothers me because that's the only explanation we have, is that we could have spent the money better elsewhere. I think the other explanation we heard was, hey, hold on, we've spent in total 125 million for 70% of this thing. Why would we spend half of that amount for only 5% more? Because you have this huge underutilized plant that requires the ore. That's why. I mean, there's no. Is it only obvious to me? If I was in the room, would anyone else have laughed this person out of the room?
Pete says, think of it this way regards Newcrest. They have multiple major mines. Havie's not their whole world. There's a huge power imbalance between Newcrest and Greatland. The shareholders get a dividend already. I mean, yes, I agree with that. But um, their whole world is you got like, what is it? Well, basically the Australian jewel in the crown. That's what Havieron could be. It's a company builder, isn't it?
It is, and it's their home turf. It's where they started their company. It's where their biggest mill is. It's the company maker is down the road, and it's been given a second lease of life. You're coming in as the new CEO. Are you just looking to expand and keep throwing money at Sol Gold, who probably wouldn't get an ounce of copper out the ground for the next decade at best? And anyone coming into a mining company like this, and we all know now how long mining companies can take, you must have a 5-year vision, a 10-year vision, and a 15-year vision. Because if you're not taking into account what could be happening in 10 to 15 years' time, you're not doing your job on a macro scale to feed into that micro. And I just can't see a bigger priority for Newcrest at home than this. It's of course I understand Newcrest and the bigger bit and whatever else, but you're asking me to weigh whether or not I think that they will drag their heels, play silly buggers, play a corporate hard game of not shouting about how wonderful we are and doing the opposite basically, and just to maybe get a chance to buy us cheaper further down the line, as opposed to doing what they've always said they would do and fast track this to production and go as hard as they possibly could. Because that 70% over the next 5 years fast track is worth a hell of a lot more than 100% over the next 5 years slow track.
Yeah.
And if we're so bloody great at the end of it, they can just buy us for fair value, right? And just ultimately decide we do want that 30%, and you can carry on with all the acquisitions you've done over the past 5 years that took you up to a 7 billion market cap, but we want the 30% of Havieron. Maybe we sell it then for the right price. I don't know. But as an investor, I think the good thing is I'm happy where I am. I'm happy I know everything I need to know, and I'm happy I know where the roadmap is and the first point in the future where I might consider either taking profit or selling out or making any form of longer term decision.
Yeah.
And basically it's nice because I now can just kind of step away and every 6 weeks check in and be safe in my investment and what I want to do. Same as with the exploration, it was all about that MRE. It was all about how much is it gonna be, and all the excitement led up to all these drill results culminating in this number. This now is all the drill results culminating in production. And it's, for me, it's certainly the right place to be, but I'm disappointed. I got a lot of friends and family who I was saying only 6 months ago, by February 2023, I expect the gold price to be playing ball, and I expect we'll have a feasibility study and another MRE out in place. And we have neither, and we have no inkling of when either are going to take place during this year. what's going on.
Yeah. Well, the share price has reacted quite nicely to it. There were new highs since July last year, so that's all well and good. Yeah, but Stuart, an hour and 53 minutes. Unless somebody fires in a quick question, I think we should wrap this up because you've been up since 5 o'clock.
I have, and I've got a very busy week, and I'm going to visit sunny Wales on Thursday and Friday to do to meet a client. So that'll be a first. I'm quite looking forward to it.
Nice. Wendy's just fired in. Couldn't we have a feasibility study in March? Was there a longer delay mentioned? Yes. I mean, it could come at any time, right? I mean, it's coming.
It's a good point. I keep thinking of the MRE and looking in line at the resource changes, but actually FS is anywhere, right?
Yeah, it could land tomorrow. It could land in 6 weeks. It could land in 6 months.
Yeah.
Once it's done and the plan submitted and stuff, and it's all signed off. So, but yeah, I mean, and obviously there's the MRE coming too. So that's always going to help to show that they've got more gold in the ground.
Which we already know, and I think certainly the more important document obviously is that FS. It's not even so much what's in it, because obviously we're all hopeful and it's going to get mined and the numbers will be the numbers. But to me, that's when the handcuffs come off for the board and for our banks and our investment, and we can start planning GGP's future, in parallel with our assets. And at the moment, the asset is planning our future, and we can't go off piste and decide to do a bunch of other stuff, because you might shoot yourself in the foot if the feasibility study, information says that was you jumped the gun.
Yeah. No, I totally understand.
Costa says there's Lahire FS today. Well, that'll be interesting. Not for tonight, but that will be interesting.
It might be worth a look at, just to digest and see what's involved and what comes with it, I guess. So I've been told that I have to say that if you're enjoying the show, you can donate to help pay for this. That's all I'm going to say on that. There you go. I've said it. I've done it. I promised somebody I would.
Coffee all around.
And apart from that, ladies and gentlemen, please don't forget to like and subscribe. Stu, it's been fabulous having you here again. I do enjoy listening to you and your insights. It really does help myself and the fellow shareholders to understand what's going on here. So thank you very much for your time and your bottle of wine.
Agreed, and appreciate, as always, the disclaimer that nothing you've heard is investment advice, and anything you want to do with your own money should be done with your own due diligence and money you can't afford to lose, because none of us can afford to lose money, right?
No, and
if anyone, money you can afford to lose, of course, but
absolutely, all £3.50 of it. Now, if you'd have taken that £3.50 and bought some Ferro Frogs, I don't know, maybe 18 months ago, just before they ran out of shelf life, you could have sold them and made quite a nice profit on them.
Fredo arbitrage, I like it. I like it. We'll make a financial advisor out of you yet.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's almost midnight. Thank you so much for joining us. Happy Australia Day. G'day, folks. And we will speak to you in about 6 weeks. We have got a new Crest report coming out in a few weeks. I don't know if we'll be live for that or not. I might touch it for half an hour. We might have Bamps on soon. And apart from that, I will speak to you very, very soon. Stu, any final words?
It's been great as always, folks. Thanks for the community. Thanks for staying involved in the chat. And thanks for all your support. Have a good evening.
It's been wonderful. Thank you all very much. My name's Liam, and you've been watching GGPHelp TV live. Thanks very much, and I bid you good day.